Oh, no, we're live on Twitter and
I have
going
a
live.
bit of a monologue today.
Oh, good. And we're live. It is Thursday, June 10th, 5:03 p.m. Eastern Time. Or I think we all are you in New York Eastern Time? Yes. So hopefully we're on Eastern Time. And Ben has the monologue.
I have a grouchy monologue today. I am pissed off about Susan Hennessy.
Oh.
And I am going to share in the chat my grouchy essay about the efforts by Jim Jordan et al. To slime Susan Hennessy. I want you all to tweet it because I want, when people Google Susan Hennessy's name, I don't want them to see Jim Jordan's letter to Merrick Garland asking for information about the decision to hire Susan Hennessy. I also don't want them to see the Wall Street Journal editorial denouncing Susan Hennessy. I don't want them to see the Kimberly Strassel essay in the Wall Street Journal denouncing Susan Hennessy. And I don't want them to see the tweets by Ted Cruz and John Cornyn and other Republican senators denouncing Susan Hennessy. I want them to see my article saying, that doesn't link to any of these things, responding to the unwarranted and unfair and nasty and factually inaccurate attacks on Susan, who, being a federal government employee, is currently not allowed to respond herself. Also, I don't want Matt Olson, who has been nominated by the president to be Susan Hennessy's boss at the National Security Division of the Justice Department, to think when he appears before the Senate, I guess it would be the Judiciary or maybe the Intelligence Committee, I'm not sure who the head of NSD goes before, that I don't want senators to think that they are, if they ask Matt Olson nasty questions about Susan, that they are doing anything but playing against the facts. And so I think the higher that piece is in the Google response when somebody Googles the name Susan Hennessy, the better it will be for American public discourse. So that is my request. Just take a moment to share on Facebook or tweet my little piece about Susan and the attacks on her. You will not be spreading disinformation because I've made a point of not linking to any of the bullshit in the piece. And I've tried to actually avoid even characterizing the complaints that are being made about her. So that is my request. We are not allowed to have fun anymore, but we are allowed to have someone who has also been the subject of gross, unfair attacks many times in her life. Virginia Heffernan, welcome back to the show.
I love Virginia more because of the gross unfair attacks.
Yeah.
They're always by terrible people, and so it's like a badge of honor.
And she always seems so good-natured about it.
Have all of them been unfair? I think I just got on the internet too early, and someone said,
what was the worst attack that ever happened to you on the internet?
"Oh, what are you talking about? Worse than ISIS. Hashtag worse than ISIS. I dare anyone to be canceled with that much vigor." We're hashtag worse than ISIS. It's short, it's concise, it's to the point.
And
ISIS.
What prompted it?
You know what? What prompted it? That's the problem, right?
Oh, it was when she actually I remember it was when you tried to you were a terrorist or you founded a terrorist organization.
Decapitated
I know.
A journalist.
Yeah.
And then did it again.
Yeah.
So ISIS had only done it once, but you'd done it twice, so you were worse than ISIS.
When it was Al-Qaeda in disarray, remember the old Dems in disarray that happened to Al-Qaeda? When it was Al-Qaeda in disarray and ISIS was just getting started, I sort of beat them to some of their antics, and so that's why I'm worse than ISIS.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. Does your mother have any children who don't have brain damage? I really did want to send them to my brother, who is perfectly intact cognitively. So just to reassure
TMI about your brother, by the way.
But I want to just back on to Susan Hennessy and say that I will even do this while I'm sitting here, tweet that I had missed all that. And that kind of sliming is very different from Tucker Carlson or like Twitter wags.
Well, she got that too, although I don't think from Tucker individually, but she's definitely become a Fox News punching bag. And there's been, I don't know precisely who's behind it. I think it's more a sort of right-wing ecosystem, spiritus mundi sort of thing. Yeah. As I say in the article, have really tried to ignore it on the theory that I don't want to perpetuate it. But at the point at which members of Congress are writing letters to the Attorney General demanding information, those actually require a response.
Yeah.
And so I do think you're in a different zone.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if this ever happens to me, Ben, you have a great Cosa Nostra response to things. Like when Mike Pesca lost his show on Slate, you were just like, you were dead to me, Slate. Like it's Dennis, you want Ben in your corner for the Omerta and Cosa Nostra factor.
Yeah, it's more Cosa Nostra than Omerta, since I seldom shut up. But no, I do. I do think you fuck with one of my friends. There has to be costs.
It is like a pretty awesome sense of loyalty, and you can feel it coming through the Twitter screen. Yeah, it's great.
I'm glad to be on this side of it.
I know, me too. I have. Okay, so
Kate has an agenda.
Yeah, I have an agenda. Hold on, I wrote it down.
A formal agenda.
I have okay, so I'm selfishly going to steer us first towards the thing that I have been just following and laughing at all day, which is the Eric Adams. Have you been following this, Virginia?
Yes, amazing.
The absolute Eric Adams news, which is so in New York City there is, if you're not in New York City, which many of the audience members are not, or you do not know, there is just this incredible mayoral race on. It is for the primary, for the Democratic primary, which is done by ranked choice voting. And the New York Times endorsed Catherine Garcia, who's this seemingly incredibly capable woman who used to be the sanitation leader. But of course, I think Andrew Yang is in the lead, and everyone hates him. But he has the right celebrity profile for a New York City mayor. And then there's some other candidates Maya Wiley and Eric Adams, who is kind of shooting up in the polls because he's Brooklyn Borough president, or was, I think, for a while, and used to be in the police department. And the big scandal that is rocking his campaign right now is that apparently the man lives in New Jersey. And that wouldn't, if you're not from New York City, you just do not, and I'm not from New York City, I just lived here for 12 years. This is just I don't know what you could compare it to, Virginia. What would you say? It's kind of he doesn't actually live in New York. He lives in Jersey, and he's running for mayor of New York. And to give you a sense, he then, in reaction to this news, apparently staged a fake walkthrough with the press of his son's apartment, saying that it was his. And he's an avowed vegan, and he opened the fridge and showed people the contents of the fridge, and it's full of sausage and salmon and all of these things. And there's his kids' pictures on the wall and like pictures of the kids' shoes that he's posted about on Instagram. And people have been doing this like insane level of kind of forensics on this fake tour. And the tweet to end all tweets that I thought was pretty incredible was this one. I don't know if you saw this, Virginia, but it was trying to, he's this person who's doing a thread that was like documenting all of this, and he said I'm trying here to strike a careful balance between the New Yorkers laughing because Adams lives in New Jersey and the non-New Yorkers laughing because he decided it would be less risky to set up a fake house tour for national media than admit to voters that he lives in New Jersey. And I honestly just, I don't know what's going to happen. You're a New Yorker, Virginia. What's going to happen?
I mean, I want to draw everyone's mind back a second to, was it the 90s or the aughts that Stephen Glass of the New Republic fell apart? Does anyone remember exactly?
It was the late 90s.
It was the late 90s, because then he went to law school or something at my alma mater.
And I want to, if you're going to go into this, I have a very moving addendum to this story.
All right.
If you're going to
go into it. I'm not going to go through the whole Shattered Glass story because I suspect that the In Lieu of Fun crowd probably knows a lot about it. But what I mostly remember is that Glass was trying to prove that he had indeed been at a meeting of the Church of George H.W. Bush that he said existed. And one of his bosses, not Leon Wieseltier, but someone else, was trying to pin him down on exactly where this thing was. And finally, everything kind of came off the page, like it has for Eric Adams. And Glass had to lead him to a hotel where he said the thing had been. And you can only imagine Stephen Glass's heart just pounding as he got closer and closer to this hotel. Anyway, as they got there, and he sort of quickly discovered he couldn't say it was in a conference room. So because there were none or didn't have conference stuff. So he changed course and decided to say that it was in the lobby. But the lobby was just elevators and plants, escalators and plants and desks. There was no possible place, not even like a little circle to sit in. But he still walked to the back of the thing. My heart must have been pounding. Would not say that he wasn't lying. I would not say that he'd been lying, and found like a little corner of the lobby, and that's where he said this thing might have happened, where a vending machine was. And he was finally licked and cornered. And I actually did meet Stephen Glass later, and we all make mistakes, and who among us doesn't spin when we're caught in a lie? At the same time, the thing of going all the way to the end into physical space is really what I feel like Eric Adams is doing here. I mean, he could have tried to show a utility bill. He could have done almost anything to try to get out of this. But as I understand it, also, he claimed, so he owns a bunch of buildings this guy is a really interesting guy. And by the way, he was number one in the polls as of 3 days ago. Yeah. He's black, he's rich, he was a cop, he is a very smart guy.
It's like a success story. He has like a great family.
He has a great family. He owns a bunch of brownstones in Brooklyn, and he was passing off the brownstones as the place where he lives when in fact he rents them out. So when it was discovered that he rented, as I understand it, every apartment in all of his buildings, that he rented all of them out, he said that he lived in the subterranean apartment. So that's like not the garden apartment. You all, probably many of you know the structure of brownstones, parlor floor. The garden apartment, which you can rent out, goes out into the garden. But this was below that, what homeowners know as a basement. Like a place where there were windows, there would be like grass growing halfway up. Like you can see the roots of things in the window. And he said he lived there. You can't, it's illegal to rent that out. But he was down to the last scrap. He wanted to find an unoccupied thing. So clearly he got his staff to fill it with something that vaguely made it look lived in and look like his own. But they filled the fridge. But meanwhile, he's a huge poster of like lifestyle porn, including his gigantic Fort Lee Sub-Zero monster fridge with all his vegan things.
Yes, he like posts these pictures of his fridge constantly of like his perfect like Whole Foods lifestyle.
So it was like, if the fridge don't fit, you must convict or whatever. It wasn't right. It was like, who, like, people already know what his fridge looks like. He, like, who gets hoisted on his own petard as badly as that? And Fort Lee also, like, wonderful. All this stuff is mayoral politics, just so much more fun than DC.
Yeah, and it's just like chum in the water for the rest of the candidates. They've just been like going nuts. Like we have to call it Eric Adams. Like what? Who the fuck cares where this man lives? Like it just doesn't really matter that much. And there's just been this. It's kind of like the pizza kind of fiascos about how you eat your pizza or what's on your pizza type of thing.
Oh wait, he's the only one, by the way, that knew how much an apartment in Brooklyn goes for. The earlier semi-scandal was that the candidates grossly underestimated how much apartments cost in Brooklyn.
Oh, it was like a 2-bed. It was like a 4-bed. Like how much does like a 2-bedroom apartment or a 4-bedroom house like cost in Brooklyn? And people were like $90,000, $60,000
because he is a serious landlord. So he was like doing all right. I mean, granted, he did say that his favorite movie set in New York was Taxi, in which the biggest line is, "I want to get a taxi." And he seems to have done a Robert De Niro impression saying that and had to be corrected that, of course, it's a taxi driver and he's talking to me. But that was his one misstep before this. And now this does seem disqualifying. It matters if he lives in New York because, if they do test to see how long you've lived in New York City, you have to be a real New Yorker. It's authenticity question. Then, he's really, and Fort Lee, come on. Fort Lee.
I know.
The Fort Lee mayor was the person that Chris Christie was in a battle with, which led to Bridgegate. Like that whole thing is its own cesspool of corruption. We want you to be one of our cesspool of corruption in New York City. Anyway, it looks like he might be out. All I can say is Maya Wiley, in her talking points about this, she listed a kind of interesting memo. The number 1 and 6 points she made were the same. WTF ? So that's the rebuttal from Maya Wiley's camp, and I think she's getting points in the poll for it.
Okay, I'm really glad that I got that out there. Sorry, Ben, for the local politics moment, but it was just
awesome.
It was too good. And this, I've just been watching it unfold all day, and it's just kind of also what you said about Stephen Glass. I've never seen that moment in the hotel, but you watch watch Adams do the tour, and he's just opening doors and clearly doesn't know where they go, or what's happening. So there's just I don't know. It's just very it's intense. Okay. Second item on the agenda. Ben, this one's mostly for you. I'm hearing cicadas swarms are showing up on the Weather Service radar screens.
I told you there were a lot of them. I told you they made their presence felt. I sent you pictures of the hellscape of DC.
That was actually very jarring.
Ground. Why don't you believe me when I say it? Why does it require the National Weather Service?
I mean, it was the swarms part. I guess I thought that they were somewhat immobile, to be fair. You were oh yeah, they're all in this park right by my house. Let me walk over and show you the dead shells of cicadas. And then now they're on the move, and I feel that's more threatening.
They are no joke. Here's the good news about the cicadas.
Okay.
They are almost done. They're bacchanalian orgy Roman. I don't know. It's Saturnalia for the cicadas is just about done. They are getting ready to die, and then, in a little noticed aspect of the cicada every 17-year thing, extraordinarily large numbers of baby cicadas will be born, and they will burrow down into the ground. Now, they're going to work at this very hard.
Are they baby or larvae?
They're larvae.
Okay.
And they will burrow down 8 feet below the ground. Like, digging 8 feet below the ground takes work, and they will just sit there for 17 years, sucking on the roots of trees. And so I just want you to think about that as an emblem of commitment. Their parents yesterday grounded the president's press plane, and they are going to dig.
Because they were in the engine, Virginia. They were in the fucking engine.
I can't, with the cicadas engine, the keys magnetized to forehead. Yesterday,
do you have cicadas up where you are?
No,
Virginia?
we have no cicadas. But also Ben's sort of poignant admiration for them.
I love
that hit me hard. First you call them babies, and then you say they dig so deep down under the ground, and we have to admire
This is my third
He loves them.
17-year cycle.
Oh.
The first was the year I guess it's my fourth if you count the year I was born. But the first was that I remember was when I was 17 and graduated from high school in the Washington area. And that was just this magical, crazy, like there wasn't like, I read in the newspaper that it was going to happen, but there was no internet, so there was no like cicada craze. And they were just deranged. It was just, and then the last one was when my kids were little, and they used, my older one would run around catching cicadas in a pot, and with a big spoon, and would pretend to make cicada stew. And I just think they're the greatest thing. Has
he been saying this, Kate? Because you see him like. You seem like you
it's
know
very
it.
I love it. Well, like Ben and I share this kind of like very, I think, like pure love of nature that like we both are just like captivated. We don't have much of an ick factor, I don't think, when it comes to these things. And like, so I really like, I totally get it. I in fact like almost wanted to go down to, I should have planned it more in advance. I wanted to come down.
You should come down and actually see before they go away again for 17 years. That means you are going to be over 50, Kate, by the time the cicadas come out again.
That's so old, Ben.
I know. Believe me, I know.
Sorry. I had to take it.
But then you get to say things like, I've seen the cicadas many times when I was 17, then when I was 34.
Mark Twain said of Halley's Comet the year before he died, I came in with Halley's in
I remember
1834 or whatever it was, and I expect to go out with it again next year, which he did, by the way. And that's kind of the way I feel about the cicadas.
Because you said the first time you saw them you were 17, so they were the year of your birth.
Oh, yes,
yeah. I believe they were the year of my birth. I want to share a picture of the cicada hellscape.
Oh.
I posted this I posted this on Twitter, but yeah.
Yeah, this is an actual unadjusted picture
It's just insane.
Of just the ground underneath a tree.
There's just something like kind of majestic. I know it's kind of gross, but it's also something kind of like majestic about the scale of it. Like, so it's just so insane.
It's actually not gross. It's like, imagine a whole lot of shrimp shells. You know, it's just kind of. Okay. They're just exoskeletons. It's just like lobster shell.
I feel like that's not like. Do you know how smelly shrimp and lobster shells are? But no, I do take that they're just kind of exoskeletons. They're just kind of there. Yeah.
They look a little more like flora than fauna to me, like pieces of trees or something.
I am down with the cicadas. We are buds. Can
I push you guys a little on this like down with cicadas thing though? Okay, yes. So the whole pretext of In Lieu of Fun was that there was a global pandemic and we were grounded. I see that now, even though there is fun to be had, this is like more fun. In lieu of the diminished fun that you can have in the real world, you guys do this. But I was kind of obsessed with, I think now I can talk about it, with the protein spikes on the on the virus itself, on the little coronavirus spikes, and things that looked like that, like a medieval mace or what is it, throwing star kind of thing, and how there were trillions of them all the time coming at us, and we had to dodge them. And every time you saw a picture, there were just clouds of them shedding off us. And it's kind of, I can't tell if our bodies can tell that the microbes are in remission or what. But I don't know. Did you guys have any experience? Oh, sorry, Lisa. Did you all have any experience of thinking like you can almost taste the microbes, or there's any difference now? And the air was soaked with something that could kill us.
Well, like, I just feel like the actual scariest part for me, Virginia, was the period in time before we knew that it was in the air. Like, I think that period was really terrifying. I remember, like all of the, I mean, obviously the hand washing songs, and then there was the wiping down your packages from like Amazon and like everything, and just, I don't know, I thought that was scarier.
Did you actually do that? The wiping down your packages from
John
Amazon?
and I, like, one of us would put on gloves and get our packages and bring them inside, and we would or we'd open them on the porch, and it was like cold out, it was winter, and we'd bring the contents inside, and then one of us would wipe them down, and then the other one, and and then wash our hands, and then but there was we really kind of did it like almost like a little bit of a clean room. Like we didn't do it for long, but we did it for like a week or 2, 3 weeks. Like, I don't know. It wasn't like too long, but it was like a while. I don't know. They just didn't know. I just remember it being, maybe that was dumb of us, but like, I just feel like we were trying to be really careful.
I don't think so. I don't think we can go back and be like, haha, you were hypervigilant. Because I was a big glove person. I think I can say it in this like,
a glove person. I like that there's like I totally know what you mean. I knew the glove people. I was not a glove person.
I was like, what's wrong with being a glove person? But then someone told me that the glove people were selfish, and that because glove people could spread it, but they didn't want it on their own hands. And where mask people were more like kind of give and get, like they were just more better citizens. But I did fall for the gloves thing for a while. And also, it was still cold out up here, so it kind of made a, I don't know, dent or something. But it is just, I think we're going to get back to normal quickly. That's a controversial.
And are you comfortable with that, or are you somebody who thinks we should go slow on the getting back to normal?
No way. I'm with Biden and the vaccine. I'm just like, can we be happier about this? Like, you guys started this, and Donald Trump was the president, and there was a pandemic that would wipe out more than 500,000 Americans in the offing, or like already claiming lives. And now we have a new president and we have a vaccine. I really think that there has to be some kind of, New Deal style celebration, some kind of like the boots off our throat, the virus is out of our lungs,
I think, and I want to hear both of your thoughts on this, but like, what do you think about the social, the social messaging that you're sending out by wearing masks that developed over time? Like I think there was a joke going around a couple months ago or a couple weeks ago on Twitter that like no longer could people tell who was like a crazy non-vaxxer because those people weren't wearing masks. And so there's just kind of all of this communication happening with this kind of visual stuff. And so I think everyone knows this, but I don't know if I told you, I was vaccinated twice with both shots by Pfizer by the end of February.
Wow.
And I didn't do anything differently because we didn't know whether John could still get it, and I wanted to be careful. But then, like, the second he got vaccinated, probably 6 weeks later, I was like, great, like, let's go out without masks. And we would walk down the middle of the street in Brooklyn on Fifth Avenue, and he would still have his mask on. And I'm like, you have Pfizer, you're like twice vaccinated, like, we're outdoors. And he was like, no, I have to like communicate to people that like I believe in masks and I'm fine with the social cost of wearing them. I'm like, and I was like, I am not Like, I don't know.
So what's your view of this, Virginia? When do you wear masks and when do you not?
Okay, they stopped requiring them in my building. So if you're vaccinated, so I stopped wearing them in my building. And then I stopped wearing them kind of on the street. And then some places say, if you're vaccinated, come on in. And some places say, put your mask on. I always have one in my pocket. And then I'm trying to think. So sometimes I wear them inside. And I've realized less, like, that we are asking each other less and less. Like, it kind of seems like you're asking someone, are you bonkers if you ask them if they haven't been vaccinated, right? Like, almost everyone over 12 in one's immediate orbit has been vaccinated.
So
also I'm a proselytizer, so I want to, like, show how much fun it is to be vaccinated. I'm Flanders.
So
you heard the good news.
So your rule is you don't wear one unless there's a rule that says you need to wear one.
Exactly. Because the sharks and jets thing, which I understand, we can't know who's an anti-vaxxer or whatever, who's an anti-masker. And that was so convenient for a while. I get it. You've got to know which side everyone's on at all times. But now I think it might be okay to, I don't know. Also, because when it gets right down to it, this is about a disease. It's not about a street fight, and
nor is it about virtue signaling in any direction.
Of course not. I just didn't want to get sick and die like my aunt, right? I mean, that would seem like a bipartisan proposition, but it turned out, as we now know, not to be. Death had some partisans.
Scott is here, so we're going to rapture Scott in. But I also just want to say, so I agree, but, like, Ben, what about, and like also Virginia, but, like, what about, like, this? Like, we talked about this when, like, Josh Sharfstein was on. Like, having reasonable risk management structures is important to living other parts of life. Like, of course you can wrap yourself in bubble wrap and, like, be the bubble boy from, like, Jerry Seinfeld, and, like, it's just not going to, there is a curve in which, like, quality of life has to meet at some point to some manageable level of risk. And that's all I'm trying to say. I'm not saying, right?
No, go further. If you do not do that, if for purposes of signaling, hey, people should wear masks, you wear masks when you don't need to, you're actually conveying bad information.
Yes.
You're conveying that a mask is a symbol of something. You're conveying that a mask is a mute
I got
Scott
it.
Until he
Scott, you just need to put on headphones. But I muted you until then.
You're conveying something about the mask that is quite ascientific, which is that it's a symbol of something.
Yeah.
And once you accept that it's a symbol of something, you have to accept that for Ron DeSantis, it is also a symbol of something.
Mm-hmm.
I do not accept that the mask is a symbol of something. I accept that the mask is something that I do to protect other people from the communicative virus that I don't think I'm carrying, but may be carrying.
Mm-hmm.
And to a much lesser extent, may minimally protect me from other people. Well, I now know to a moral certainty that I know that I am vaccinated, and I therefore know to a moral certainty that my chances of transmitting the virus are minimal.
Yeah.
And my chances of being infected by the virus are also minimal.
Yeah.
And so, seems to me the best message that I can send is the one that John Bordeaux put on a hat for me.
I totally agree with this. I thought this was brilliant.
I'm fully vaccinated, and you should be too. And there's no good reason, particularly outdoors, to wear a mask if you're fully vaccinated.
Yep.
Except one. And I want to be, because Virginia flagged this issue, there are all these restaurants and shops in Washington that require that you wear a mask. Mm-hmm. And I respect the fact that for those restaurants and those shops, in the protection of their employees, a bright line rule, everybody wears a mask, is a good,
Fine
easily
regulation.
administrable rule. And so out of respect for their ability to run their own affairs in a fashion that keeps them in business, I am very willing to put on a mask, though it doesn't actually do anything in the case of either protecting me or protecting people from me.
It's kind of like putting on a kippah when you go into, like, I don't know, like, right? Like, if it's like somebody says something like, can you please, like, cover your hair when you enter this mosque, or you take off your shoes. You just do it.
In the opposite example that flummoxed me, I was walking around pre-pandemic in Italy, and I walked into a church and didn't take off my hat because, of course, Jews don't take off hats when they go into synagogues. They put them on. And so it never occurred to me to take off my hat to go into a cathedral. And I was approached by a very nice custodian informing me that I was being incredibly rude. And so I took off my hat.
They don't even let me into churches in Italy because I was wearing a tank top. So that's like...
That by-self woman that you get in mosques too is, a challenge.
Hi, Scott.
Hi.
So nice to have you here.
Yeah, I was just. Hi, Virginia. I was in my office because my office was torn apart because they were putting a new wire in, and I have to submit this book next week, and I printed out the thing, and I've been reading it, and then I was like, it was like 5:15, and I was like, I wonder what they have to say. So I turned.
In lieu of book editing, you can have in lieu of fun.
Yeah. But can I just on the topic of masks, I do feel very aggrieved because I did go out and buy a new mask and got the world's worst mask. Can I share?
Do we need to make you bigger? Or you want to share a screen?
Yeah, can I share a screen?
You should be able to. Go above your face, and it should come down, and then you can go over to the right.
Okay, right, gotcha. And then allow.
But do not hit the entire screen tab. Go over to
right. Okay. Okay. So then, yeah. Can you see that?
The top of the Firefox thing.
We can see it.
Don't you think that's a very bad mask?
Wait, what is the
It's
mask?
not
the
obviously a
Firefox
mask
logo.
at all.
What do you mean? It's not. It is obviously well, I'm telling you, it's a mask.
The Firefox logo?
And a microphone?
Wait. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I didn't.
Scott regularly tries to break in lieu of fun with his screen sharing.
I want to say, Scott, you are a very fine legal philosopher, but you are the worst screen sharer ever.
Yes, this is.
It's sort of a sling. It looks like you broke your jaw, got a facelift.
That's not you, Scott.
That is me.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow! See, I would never recognize you without facial hair.
I like that it makes a dent where your mouth and nose are.
Yeah, I dislike that.
I'm screenshotting this for purposes of use someday when we don't have an appropriate image for the for the show, because it's just that terrifying. And
You're completely right, Scott. What is wrong? What is happening?
Yeah, but
it's so ill-fitting.
Could I also one or two other issues here? First of all, right, it's ill-fitting. It also makes me look even more like a serial killer. But this is my favorite part. This is the thing. It says here, fun colors. Prints available. But like for the complete white one, various people have mentioned that
it looks like you're trying to rob the bank while wearing a diaper.
Yeah, that's right. Or various people have said that they wanted to smear tomato paste and mozzarella on it.
It looks Kate,
like
enlarge the image I just shared.
Okay, I'm trying to. I'm trying to. I can't. Hold on. There we go. Now I'm doing it.
Yeah, so this is the image I'm going to use
This
someday.
is just. This is for just us Saturday.
Good morning.
I mean, maybe I will actually narrow it even further to be just the eyes.
Scott,
and
you're
the
wearing
top of the
pizza
mask.
dough.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. So but I feel like such a clod, not only because I look like a clod, but like I waited. I was thinking, okay, this is going to be my last pandemic mask purchase, because after this I'll be basically free, because I lose a mask once a month or something like that. I just feel like this was the last one I was going to do, and
You went out on a you went on a note like that.
A note.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry to have elevated the discussion.
So Virginia,
No.
I have a very serious question for you.
Okay.
And just for people in the Greek chorus, Kate and Scott and I and Virginia have not discussed this before. So this is actually a cold ask on In Lieu of Fun. Do you have any interest in hosting or co-hosting an evening a week of In Lieu of Fun?
Oh my God! Wait, this is like being proposed to on the jumbotron.
Yeah.
It is,
This is,
yeah.
This is like
Really?
there is
Kate, you didn't know?
no.
I don't
I
do
mean-
fidelity in co-hosting relationships.
You're looking for something kind of open as a bachelor?
Yeah, I mean that's why we brought Scott in. It's kind of an open relationship sort of
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, we do poly hosting.
I am
This is
poly hosting. I am interested. I am interested, but we might have to talk during the commercial break. So
All right.
scheduling. Yes,
Yeah.
we can do.
I'm definitely flattered and flustered. That's
think-
an exciting idea.
I just want to propose something unrelated, which is Scott. What
Marriage.
if we? Well, no. Well, right. To all of you, in keeping with this theme, Scott, I think you should take your mask and to salvage yourself, given what we talked about in John Bordeaux's I'm fully vaccinated hats. I think you should just take a red Sharpie and write in all caps on the front of your mask, fully vaccinated, like a serial killer or something.
Like a Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, or
I honestly think this, okay, this may sound like an excuse, but I honestly think that mask is as scary as it gets. I think you'd be gilding the lily, trying to make it any scarier. It is itself terrifying. That's my own view.
All right, can I jump in with something that it's going to go somewhere, but you're going to have to take a leap of faith in the beginning. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Because this promises a Virginia Heffernan monologue. If you have to take a leap of faith at the beginning that we're going to get somewhere cool.
Will I ever land the point? I think I can land this pretty quickly. All right. So there's this Buddhist teacher who has a online meditation called Just Note Gone. And you can do it, I don't know if anyone has seen this. You can do it through headphones, a guided meditation. It's a really weird thing. It starts with the premise that we always know when things, or we're very attentive to when things start, but we don't recognize when they go. So you are listening to music on this, and then the music stops. And you have to tap as soon as possible after you hear it stop to sort of alert yourself to when things are ending. And that is what I feel we have not done properly with the pandemic. We are not just noting gone. And I don't think we did it with Trump either. And I don't want to completely connect these two. But why, if we were 6 months into Trump's presidency, we would still have our hair on fire. Our hair's not on fire anymore 6 months later. And we didn't get to say, look at this, my hair. Look at the no flames in my hair. And same with this, we're talking about, do you sometimes wear a mask outside? It was such a short time ago that we barely could go outside. So let's just note gone. Thus, I complete my deal.
I think that was the most perfect monologue ever. I mean, if this was a tryout, You got it.
Okay,
No,
good.
Virginia is a spectacular monologuist. There is
Yeah.
just like no, and if you haven't listened to the superb opening monologues of Trumpcast over 2.5 years, I still have never really understood whether they're written or improvised or improvised and then cut, which is I think how I would do it. Just talk a lot into a microphone and then cut your way to coherence. I've like never understood Virginia's process for doing it.
Well, it will remain a mystery, but thank you, Ben. But you're supposed to listen to other people and not just monologue. Is that
Yeah, I mean, I believe in that, but I also look. I am allowed to be a connoisseur of good monologists.
true?
Um,
Do it yourself.
there are these people who you just love to hear talk, and they start on one thing and they get you. It's the Cyrano de Bergerac quality of just being able to get you from point A to point B in a super interesting way. And, you know, like, you don't get to deny it. You're one of them.
All right.
Can I say who one of my favorite is James Baldwin? I love listening to James Baldwin make an argument. You know that famous William F. Buckley Oxford debate?
Yes, yeah.
I have watched that so many times.
So many times.
It like gives me chills. It's like some type of intellectual crack.
Why
Like
did
it's
you
just
say,
so
like,
good.
Listen, why don't we get to watch it in a theater without masks on? It's just to be great. And who should play everyone, and doing Buckley's accent and then Baldwin's voice, which is great acting.
Buckley's accent, which was entirely put on, by the way.
Did really?
Um,
Like when he went home at night,
he-
he just sounded like the
He was from Connecticut.
But that was
That is what people sound like from Connecticut, Ben.
Isn't that probably Lockjaw, but Connecticut version? I thought that was like how one spoke in
I
them.
don't know. His brother, who was a D.C. Circuit judge for many years, didn't sound anything like that.
My dad gave himself an accent upgrade. I think a lot of people do.
I believe in it. I just
Yeah.
believe that you should, Scott Shapiro, for example, did not grow up with his current accent.
Definitely
And we
not.
should just call him on it. I mean, it's not that you shouldn't be allowed to do it, but, I didn't grow up speaking like this, and people should call me on it.
Scott grew up in southern France. And
No,
so-
I grew up in northern New Jersey, but with a very thick Cockney accent.
Are you sounding like Kate Winslet in Delaware County?
This kind of putting on this thick Jewish kind of speech has been very difficult, very hard. Lots of many years of therapy.
Yeah, that's right.
But
We have to go to. Oh,
I'm
sorry.
not
Go ahead,
ashamed.
Scott. Yes, good. You shouldn't be.
I'm a little bit ashamed, but whatever.
Tony Cava, I'm gonna request that you present your question with a northern New Jersey Cockney accent, if you please.
Oh, I don't know what
Specifically,
that would sound like.
the Elizabeth,
think
New
it would
Jersey
sound-
variety.
Oh, it would sound something like this.
It's like, who is it,
I
Boris
can
Karloff?
sit like-
I know, really.
I can sit like Buckley. I can't remember what he sounds like, but I can sit like Buckley. So interesting.
The neck
right?
all the way back.
As you do.
Extruding.
This is like young Frankenstein and like William F. Buckley. Like,
Looking
he
up,
play with
that's
the
your
pencil, too?
pondering
Didn't he sit there like-
severities.
Can I just say we make fun of Bill Buckley, and in many ways he deserves it. Firing line remains uncommonly good, and
yep.
and I wish. I don't care if it would be a person of the left, a person of the right, a person of the center. I wish somebody on television would engage as seriously today with people who disagree with him or her in a sustained way as Buckley did on that show.
Yeah.
I just remember my father who was a lifelong Chicago Old Line Union Democrat, screaming at the television. He'd watch him, but he'd scream at him. So there was that.
They were actually discussions of real issues by
Right.
people who believed things, and
Right.
it's hard to overstate how much our politics misses that.
Yeah. Hey, just quickly on the mask thing, I just want to push back just a little and just say, like, Una and I have just recently, in the last couple of weeks, cleared all the hurdles, are fully vaccinated. We finally had friends over and actually ate out of the same potato chip bowl for the first time in like a year and a half. And I think we just need to cut each other slack and just let people ease into this however they need to. If somebody needs to wear a mask, I frankly still wear a mask sometimes. If I'm on the street, I see a lot of people still doing that. I live in a college town. I can't tell how many of these young people are vaccinated or not. I don't want to be the guy who gives out a breakthrough case. And if there's one thing about the science of COVID, is it has been constantly changing since last January. Nothing they say has lasted more than like a month without them coming back. Oh, wait a minute. So, if people want to wear
No,
masks,
I think it's
okay.
a great point, Tony.
I absolutely agree. Right. It's not. I mean, I think that's it's not a symbol. It's not you're not
Right.
signaling something about yourself. You're either you're gauging your risk, right? And even people who are anti-vax believe that the vaccine poses a great risk to them. They are wrong, but they're making decisions that are about mortal life and death decisions that belong to them.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
So could I quickly ask the question and change the subject completely, if you don't mind? But I was wondering about this latest, speaking of changing stories, this latest excuse about clearing Lafayette Square. Is it really materially different if the square was cleared so Trump could do a photo op, or if it was cleared so a contractor could build a fence? I mean, really, is there really any, does either of those excuses make that clearing justifiable at all? I mean, does it make any difference? And why are we having such a difficulty getting to the bottom of this in 1/6?
Yeah, so first of all, the issue is different from 1/6 because 1/6 was not a government action.
Right.
And so it's important to separate them. So the short answer to this question is no, it doesn't make a difference. And the reason is only the former answer is plausible, in the sense that, so if you were, there's no reason, if you were going to clear Lafayette Square in order to put up a fence, you didn't need to do it right now, at this moment when tensions were very high, right? You could wait a few minutes until people went home on their own, till the crowd was smaller. You could, right? It only makes sense to clear it violently using force and tear gas, about which they lied, if you are doing it for some immediate proximate purpose. Like, for example, the president wanting to walk across the street to the church that doesn't want him there, in order to hold the Bible upside down for a photo op. That's a reason, right? Yeah, and I'm holding here Clarity and Crisis upside down, which, Mark Polymeropoulos will probably appreciate because it's publicity for his book. But nobody had to get tear gassed for me to do it. Look, I think we should all hold books upside down.
This is Foucault's pendulum.
Yeah. Well, okay, I got this one, and Virginia's got Foucault's pendulum. And
that's all I got that's handy.
Yeah, and Scott's got his draft book.
I don't have any books.
Can't even tell if that's upside down.
So I don't think this explanation is plausible at all, and I don't think it's any more plausible than Bill Barr's explanation, which was that these protests were violent and there were security concerns.
I feel like I'm more wrong on this. Oh, upside down book.
Not just any book, but a Mozart score. I can't see which one.
Very nice.
What is it the score to?
Figaro.
Oh. Upside down, of course.
So go ahead, Virginia, and then we'll go to Richard's question and wrap up.
Oh, what happened in Lafayette Square? I mean, what possible geopolitical difference does it make if it was one or the other? They seem very close to each other. But I have the same question, and now I see how late we are. But I have the same question about whether it was a lab leak or a wet market leak that led to the coronavirus. Like, I just don't understand the geopolitical difference. I realize it's fun to sweat over, but anyway. So it's more fun to make distinctions than to just say it's all the same. But anyway, there I am.
Richard, it's so nice to see you and
Nice
your
to see
Figaro
you.
score. Go ahead with
And
your
my
question.
Figaro
I love
score.
this question for Virginia.
So, Virginia, you are the. I'm just going to nominate you as the patron saint of humanities PhDs who are not working in academia. So I hope you. I hope you'll accept the nomination.
It's an honor to be nominated.
How did that come about? How did you end up working outside of the university?
I am the daughter of an academic. I thought it was the only thing a person could do for a living. I just thought it was the only way to go, and that you just would slide into tenure and then into non-productive final years and complaining about your students, and that's how life was led. I got to graduate school. I had a whopping $12,000. That was the top stipend you could get a year, and I couldn't make it work. So I just started writing reviews for the Boston Phoenix, including of I don't know what, and I just really liked it. And then I took a year off and moved to New York, worked at a bookstore, and maybe it was a bookstore that was open all night. There was a lot of shoplifting there. And during the night, someone came in and saw me reading a book by Janet Malcolm. And so there's a job open as a fact checker at the New Yorker. You should go get it. So I went up there and applied and had to do a long whatever. But I became a fact checker at the New Yorker. And then I spent that year in the excitement of the New Yorker. When I had to go back to graduate school, I decided I had to.
Who was the editor then?
Who was the editor of the New Yorker? One Tina Brown. So that's how I made my bones, and she actually took me to talk ultimately her next venture. But in any case, I went back to graduate school because I just didn't want to have my dissertation hanging over my head. When I got there, I couldn't believe the just constant indignities of waiting 4 hours for your advisor and just feeling like you were always behind or always whatever. I liked teaching, but I finally finished it. And the second I finished it, I moved back to New York and resumed that extremely lucrative field and satisfying of journalism.
They don't, in Yale Law School, there's no benches because they don't want homeless people hanging out outside of the professor's offices. And so you have to sit on the floor and wait 4 hours for your professor.
The dusty Warren House where they used to have the English department at Harvard. And it was I was literally just in dust with mice.
I know. I was just kidding about the homeless people, but I did sit on the floor a lot.
Why was that true?
Scott, is that true?
No, it's not true at all. There is one bench out there. But no.
Are homeless people allowed to use it?
I would say so. There are many things you could say about Yale Law School. There are many things that are being said about Yale Law School. Okay. The interaction between the distance between faculty and students is very.
No, it's actually incredible. I waited it was actually impossible to ever get anyone to meet with me at Georgetown. With a few exceptions, no one ever people didn't even bother having office hours.
That sounds terrible. So the lesson from this episode is don't go teach at Yale. You'll have to be too close to students. We are.
Let's end this.
Okay.
We are gonna leave it there. Virginia Heffernan, you're a great American. It's great to see your face. We will be back tomorrow with Mike Chase. It was going to be cheese night, but it's not going to be cheese night. It's actually going to be buffalo wings night. Kate and Mike Chase and I are all getting buffalo wings. We're going to eat them live on the show.
To spite the people that yelled at me when I ate blueberries.
Yeah. So if you are one of the people who does not like watching people eat on television, don't watch. There will be no, this is lowbrow, like not like when there were morels with ants, which is really highbrow cuisine. Not like when we made our own mozzarella. This is wings, and I'm going to have beer. And we're going to talk about crime. So that'll be 22 hours and 57 minutes from now. And until then, Virginia?
We can't have fun, so we do this in lieu of fun.
That's right.
Yeah,
We will see
we'll
you
work on
tomorrow.
that.